Hello, hello, hello. Good evening to everybody. Hope you're doing good. Hope your bee season is underway or getting there. Unless maybe you're in one of those places on the other side of the world or upside down land. Where is that? Australia? And you guys are wore out and your season's over with. Hope you get a break. You're addicted. You'll be back into it within a month or two. Hey, Bonnie Joseph. Good to see you all. I bet you're really busy right now. It's go time in London, Kentucky, and here in northern Tennessee. Hope your bees are looking good and we all get a really nice tulip poplar and black locust flow and all those nice flows, especially blackberry blossom, my personal favorite. Love blackberry blossom. I noticed bees checking out my swarm traps on my place. Guess it's my bees, Northwest Alabama. If you put a little bit of that lemongrass in there, totally, your bees will check it out. They're always scouting around, and sometimes it could be another set of bees, but that's not what ah, that is not what I meant by I hope you're doing well, Bonnie. I hate to hear that, but at least we can have this chat tonight, and I hope that you heal very fast because I don't know if your husband can keep up with the bees or not. You're gonna have to tell him what to do even more than usual, I suppose. I hope he's ready. Hello from Ohio. Love your videos. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it very much. And Brian, hey, our New Jersey big time supporter and basically one of our longest subscribers. Several of you have been around for many years, and Brian is no exception. We've tried to get rid of him. We can't. You can't tell those Jersey people anything. But Brian, we really appreciate you and hope everything's going well. We look forward to seeing you soon and having those bees ready for you. 7 out of 9 hives had swarm cells today. Central Maryland. Wow. I would have thought that was a little late. Or a little early for Maryland. Very interesting. Hi, Marianne Sears. I think I'm going to lay off Larry this week. I roasted him pretty hard, and I know how sensitive he is. And I know that you need him to have some self-esteem. And so I'm not going to pick on him this time. I hope you and Larry are doing really good. Hey, Flower Street Farm. Good to see you. Knoxville, Tennessee, over by where Laurel was raised. Good honey over in that region. Hello, Louisiana. Philly checking in. All right. Southwest Oregon. We're just rolling them in. Central Texas. I like this. Roseburg, Oregon. Joshua, my best friend Joshua, is from Salem, Oregon. And I actually got him to move out here. He helps me and Laurel with the conference day of with merch logistics. And we call him our Oregon donor. He hates it. He's still pounding this week. Well, what can you do? He likes the attention. Did my first ever grafting today. I did 15 cells, hoping for 7 or 8. Good luck, Adam. I'm actually grafting a second group of rounds right now, and I am going to be checking either tomorrow or the next day to see how good the takes were. It's one of those things, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And you can't have too many bees in nutrition when you're raising cells. Oh, hey, Scott. Yeah, I remember seeing you. Picked up 2 nukes from you in Gainesville with my wife and dog. We took a photo. Yep. And your dog just sat right there in front of all of us like it was used to getting its picture took. We started getting set up for it, and it just like it knew what to do, Norman Rockwell style. You need some advice with the nukes. Well, hit me with the question here. That's what it's for. All right. I see your question on there. One of the nuke had 13 queen cells. Well, like we said, Scott, we'll swap it out. Occasionally we have these issues. It could be during transport, the queen gets pinched or something like that, and it ends up to where you've got this issue. So send me an email on caymansbees at gmail.com, or how you were conversing with either Chris or I, and we'll swap it out with another one, and we'll get you right back on track. All right. Grassy Fork Farm. Hey, Cayman, Parrotsville. Great meeting you 2 weeks ago. I forgot to ask if the queens were marked and the nukes. I guess that was 2 weeks ago. Um,
You're just getting old.
them were in this last round. I think all of them were in this last round. I'm not sure if all of them got marked in yours. The early nukes that we had, they came from somewhere else, which our later nukes are the ones that we produce ourselves. And we had all kinds of issues with the previous supplier. This one did a fantastic job, and we were able to go through them. We just weren't able to in the time frame to get them all marked. So likely, I would say if you're not seeing a nice light blue dot, probably not. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You're double teaming me. Don't try to avoid your warranty. All right, Chris, feed me some questions. Threw them in a chicken incubator. Well, keep them at 93 degrees. Throw a sponge in there to keep the humidity up. But yeah, just get with me. Let's meet and we'll swap it out. I mean, it's very possible that a new queen will go out and fix that, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And you guys paid for a nuke, and you should get what you're paying for. So, but we always have extra bees in our back pocket for this reason, and it always happens a couple times a year. Cedar Creek, Texas is in Nectar Flow. I'd say you are. Last week I had some great queen cells take. We'll start a third round tomorrow. Mary Ann, aka CCB Lady. Well, awesome, Mary Ann. It's a fun time of the year. It's also a crazy, hectic time of the year. And that's part of the reason we're having this chat is about queen cells and making splits. I mean, but we'll take any questions that you guys have. But here in a second, I want to kind of talk a little bit about that, about what we're doing with the colonies that are capping swarm cells and what we're doing to curb the ones before they get there, and just how we deal with it. It's not the only way. There are many techniques to dealing with swarming, making splits, and all that kind of stuff. So just always take it with a grain of salt. There's multiple ways to do it. Someone was asking me about a dimmery the other day, and I've just never done that before, so I don't know. I'm don't have time for it. I kind of got my system. I'm comfortable with it, and I just think that it takes a little bit more. If you're doing hundreds of hives and trying to prevent swarming, and then you are having to do a dimmery, I think to me it takes a little bit more time. All right, Mark. So is it swarm season early where you live? Actually, I don't think so. I think we're about right on time. If anything, maybe a couple days behind. We've had some really cool nights, but you caught one in Omaha, Nebraska. That seems really bizarre. About 3 to 4 weeks earlier than normal. Excuse me. And my thoughts on that would be somebody took bees to the almonds, not far away from you guys. And after, they might overwinter them down in Texas or Louisiana, or maybe in a shed somewhere. And then they take them to the almonds. The bees build up on that really nutritious almond pollen. And sometimes they get really good nectar from the almonds as well. And so these bees come back really packed. And it doesn't matter if it's going to be 45 degrees, for the next couple of days. They get a warm, if they're really strong and they're powerful and they're already wanting to swarm, first available day they get it's warm enough, they're going to swarm out and hang in a branch or something like that. And so when bees get that fever, that swarm fever, they've just got to answer that call, I suppose. And whether it makes good sense or not, they'll do it. I would guess that's what that is, Mark. I could be wrong, but I would guess it's something like that. Uh-oh. Temps are still low here in New York. What temps can I start making nukes and splits? Well, we're getting some pretty cool nights, and we've been splitting for, let's see, three weeks now. But we've had nights that are getting down into the upper 30s. We've had a couple nights in that time frame where we've gotten frosts and light freezes. But we're seeing a lot of consistent temperatures that are getting around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Bees are able to fly more often than not, and that's really important to making splits. And a lot of it has to do with how much food they have and how much bee coverage. If there's plenty of bees covering everything and they have enough food that they can generate all the heat that they want, you can split right now. It's all about logistics. And so bees are rearing brood in New York right now. They've got to be able to keep that warm. Yeah, the trick is how much bees can you afford to take from the big colonies. And so to me, that's kind of what it's more like to me. And what are you trying to split here? Are you trying to make a mating nuke? Are we trying to make an equal split? Are we trying to make some nukes to sell? But it's all about the bee coverage. 2 frames of brood needs just full coverage and then extra coverage around that. And then you need to feed them, or better yet, give them a frame of food and feed them. One of the biggest things that we see this time of the year is just bees eat and eat and eat. Now we're starting to get our honey flow going in most of our yard locations where the autumn olive is, and we're starting to get fringe Phacelia pretty good. We got a little bit of red bud. We're getting some cherry now. But the big colonies are able to capitalize on it a lot better than the little guys. And the little guys right now are lean. Like I'm having to feed the splits right now. And if we didn't, we would lose them. It's just so cold and they're burning through so much energy. And there's beautiful frames of brood in there, but they've just got to keep that temperature up. So little splits, especially when you're early in the season, require a lot of food to be able to go forward, draw comb, and maintain. Okay, 5 frame nukes for increase. I don't know how far you are behind me, but I would say within a couple weeks you're probably ready. But it seems like it's a little early for that. Is what I would consider for you guys. If I started 3 weeks ago and I start pretty early, I'd say that you still need a little bit more time. It depends on, I guess, what part of New York. And I don't know. I mean, you could be close to some of the lakes or something, have some type of lake effect. But always better to play it safe than sorry. Safe than sorry, because you get some queens. You pay a lot of money for queens. Don't want to mess that up. I have built 1 frame insulation foam nuke for queen mating with a ripe queen cell added and food frame. What's the minimum attendance needed until she mates before moving her into a larger split? Well, there's got to be plenty of bee coverage to keep all the brood warm. So that's the main thing. Um, if you throw a frame of brood in there, you got to have full coverage on that brood. If you don't have any brood in there, sometimes they don't lock in too good, especially if you're throwing in a queen cell, which doesn't really have anything to lock them down. So what locks bees in is brood pheromones and queen pheromones of a laying queen, or a queen that has been mated. You know, virgins have a very different profile, and bees don't lock in on virgins. And then no brood. So one of the biggest problems we had when we were doing those baby nukes, which I do not like, is you would throw in about a cup of bees, and then you would have your queen cell that you'd throw in there, and you'd put some sugar syrup and some foundation, a little bitty, just tiny foundation frames, and we had a terrible time locking them in. You'd have to stick them in the basement, or I would stick them in my basement in a cool area for a couple of days, which would help. And they would eat some of the sugar syrup, start drawing some comb. That does help a little bit. And we started using queen pheromone strips to help lock them into that nuke so we wouldn't lose so many. So it's really tricky when you're just trying to use the cell. You may have better success than I have, Alex, but I never liked that system of no brood and just a queen cell. I did have very poor experience with that. All right. Next question. What part of Tennessee are you from? I'm from Indiana, actually. We moved here when I was 12. I'm just north of Cookeville, Tennessee. It's in between Nashville and Knoxville a little bit, a little closer on the Nashville side. Definitely more northern, close to the Kentucky border. hill country, not a lot of ag except cows. Used to be tobacco, that kind of thing.
Side note, as a tourist in the area, it's a beautiful area. It's really really pretty. Says the Ohio boy who comes down to visit occasionally. So
Yeah, just
it's
stay
great.
out.
Hey, you like your other Ohio neighbor, so I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but he does welding for me.
Fair. Okay, we'll keep rolling. You let me know when you want to pause and have any grandstanding. So, all right, here's next question.
How far along is it too late to prevent swarming? My hive has 3 queen cells. I removed them and added a super and moved empty frames down into the brood chamber. I find once they cap the queen cells, I cannot stop them from wanting to issue a swarm unless I find the original queen and separate her. Um, there could be some other techniques out there that I'm not aware of, but whenever I see, and this segues right into what I was going to be talking about, so it's great. So right now we are going through honey production colonies, and some of them we just don't get to in time, and we find that they have 15 to 20 queen cells in there, and 2, 3, 5, sometimes 10 of them are capped already. It's all about stimuli with bees, and it's very difficult to slow their roll once they make up their mind. And so when things are going properly, it's extremely powerful. And hey, swarms are powerful too. But I don't like sending 60 to 80% of my flying force off into the wild blue yonder. It's a lot of bees and bee power, a lot of comb drawing potential, a lot of honey potential. And so I've never had a very good experience being able to just cut cells, throw on space, and get the queen to go back to laying if she's already stopped heavily. And typically, by the time they start capping cells, they get there. My rule of thumb, and I learned it from other people, is if they've capped them, it's time for a split. If nothing is capped yet, we are going to cut everything down. We are going to add drawn combs. We are going to still cut that colony back a little bit, shake some bees, cut, pull some frames of emerging brood or some type of brood out of there. We don't really want to pull out open brood. The young brood actually reduces the likelihood of that colony wanting to swarm. So we want the young brood, but we just make a split because we're trying to get that out of their system. And then I'm going to come back 5 days later and check to see if that stopped them from wanting to build cells or if they're trying to build it again. Oftentimes they want to build them again because it's just in their system. And so if they haven't swarmed out yet, we really try to find the queen and make a split with the original queen. And we'll just put her in her own single. And yeah, it does cut back a little bit of the honey production from that original colony, but no less than if they would have shot off a huge swarm. So that's personally how I deal with it. Chris, you mind taking care of that weirdo towards the bottom?
Yep, I'm working on it. We're good.
Thanks. Hey, Cayman, what's your new action figure going to be? Well, when's your new action figure? It was not. It didn't look like me. The nose was wrong. The face wasn't very handsome. These are not characteristics I possess. And so, if there's going to be an action figure made, get it right. The only thing that they got right was the smoker looked like a dating smoker. That was good. The beak gloves looked pretty good. The whip looked like cheap plastic. Nope, it's not going into production. Unfortunately, AI just isn't that good. I thought Chris was the weirdo. He is the weirdo, but he's the weirdo we know. I'm in Scotts County, just below the Kentucky line. Gotcha. Yeah, not too far away. So AI, this is just a weird place that we're at, and it's always interesting, I guess, new technology, but a lady posted the other day, and it was a gorgeous picture of a swarm that went in between the branches of some type of flowering, like pink, red, blooming a tree. It looked like a peach tree or something like that. And the way that the swarm gathered on the branches and went down the trunk, it made it look like a heart. And all of this beautiful flower petals. It was just it was really a gorgeous photo. It looked so gorgeous. People were saying that it was AI. It was too perfect looking. And so she took a video to prove that it was not, in fact, AI. And and I'm just like, what a time we live in, where we have to second guess some stuff because it could just be artificially made. Hey, Cayman, do you have any queens for sale? I probably will have some for sale here in the next week or two, but it's not like we're putting them on the website or anything like that. It'll probably just be a flash sale. I'm not going to have um, just selling them for weeks upon weeks. Usually we just have a bunch of maybe 1 or 2 weeks a year and they're gone. But you can email me at caymansbees@gmail.com. And if we can get you one, we will, or whatever you need. We should have a few dozen. And this is Rainier Ike. He's got a YouTube channel. He keeps bees in Maine and also works with a commercial operation. We have made over 1,800 splits so far here in South Georgia. The Tupelo trees are almost blooming here. Well, good luck on the Tupelo honey. That is prime honey. So Rainier, maybe you can add in the comments, people are talking about queen cells. And, if you guys run across a colony that's capping queen cells over there, in that commercial operation, what are you guys doing? You just cutting them back or, making a split? What are you guys doing? Okay. Tar Heel Beekeeper says, what's the word, Cayman? Bees, lots and lots of bees, swarm cells, some honey, hopefully. What distance can a swarm go? I don't really know off the top of my head. Based off of swarm traps and stuff and what I remember, I'm going to say anywhere between about 3/4 of a mile on average, but I could be wrong. I know that Tom Seeley's book, The Honeybee Democracy, really goes into a lot of details on that, and it's been a while since I've read it, so I'm not 100% sure, but it's not a crazy long distance when it can be helped. But I'm sure there's a lot of variables there, so I'm not 100% sure, Michael. Are they only local pickup for the queens? If it's not like onesies and twosies, I would consider shipping. We have done that before. The problem is we just do not have the time to do 1 or 2 queens. And I know that's not great for everybody who just needs 1 or 2, but we just don't have the time for it. Yes, I would rather sell queens at $25 a piece and move 100 at a time than get $40 a queen and move them at 2s and 3s and 4s. We're too far from where we ship. It's a 40-minute trip. You go in, you pluck 2 queens here, and you have to package it up. There's just no money in it compared to other things that we're doing. So that's kind of where we're at on the queens. Well, we make so many splits, we don't have much time to mess with one hive. We will crush cells and pull them back to the same number of brood frame as the others. And just let what happens. When you got a lot of bees, that's kind of what you have to do. Purchased 2 nukes. I installed them in my new equipment on top of cement blocks. Within the first week, I had a trail of ants trying to get into the hive. What do you do to help with ants? So there's a couple different things. The bees seem fine, but I just don't want these ants to turn into a bigger problem. If they're little ants, it's very common, especially if you have an inner cover. You have your outer cover, you're telescoping, you have an inner cover. And the ants love having a well-protected area. And a lot of times they'll build a little colony up inside that inner cover, telescoping cover. As long as the bees can't access it, they'll get up in there and they'll raise their brood in there. Of course, they really like any leftovers. Bees accidentally drop pollen sometimes. They also kick out, let's say, a small hive beetle, and sometimes mites die. There's a lot of things that around beehives that ants like to eat, and so probably not a problem unless they're large ants. What you can do about it? I usually just make sure that the bees are strong and there's nowhere in the hive the bees cannot access. And That works really well for me. But there are different types of ants out there, and weak colonies can struggle a little bit. You can put some stuff around the hive to maybe reduce that. I really don't use anything for ants. If I find a nest somewhere, I don't like it. There's several organic fluids like kerosene and diesel. Just and I'm sure there's some other sprays out there that are supposedly more eco-friendly, but I doubt it. All right, let's continue, Chris, before we have the EPA show up to the chat.
No problem. There was a couple I want to keep going with here.
Recent split. I let the original hive requeen itself. It swarmed last Thursday and again Saturday, yet Saturday swarm returned after 2 hours. What causes a return? Sometimes the bees won't even have a queen, and the stimuli is still so strong that they leave. And then sometimes the queen didn't go with them. They've got it in their system, and they call these like practice swarms. And sometimes you'll see bees on the grass because the queen's like hasn't lost enough weight where she can fly yet, because sometimes they get too ambitious. Sometimes the queen's wings get damaged when they're fighting other queens when they're a virgin. They can get damaged by the bees themselves. Sometimes when the virgin is in the process of getting accepted by the colony, or a queen that is introduced in a cage or whatever, sometimes the first thing they go for is they nip at their feet and they nip at their wings. And so sometimes the queen's not able to fly. But probably in this case, I would say they just have it in their system, and maybe virgin queens haven't emerged yet, and they would like to send off a secondary virgin swarm. Or who knows? Swarming is one of the biggest conundrums for me. I mean, there's so many things I just don't understand about it. And I've talked to people who are a lot smarter than me, and they seem to be just as confused. Talked to Michael Palmer, Bob, and I'm like, what do you do about this? He's like, I don't know. It's different every time. I'm like, well, Bob, that's not really helpful. He's like, good luck. Gee, thanks. Thank you, Kama, for all the valuable information on queen rearing. Hey, no problem, Mark. It is so much fun to raise queens and make your own splits. Having a well-mated homemade queen is just the best, and I absolutely love it. Hey, Hog Farmer, thank you so much. Thanks for being one of our members too, and for supporting us in this live chat. If you have any questions about your bees this year or whatever, please leave that down below. So Brian Reese is digging me about that action figure being too tall. Brian, what are you, like 2 inches taller than me? Maybe. You can't say anything. I'm not even sure you're 2 inches taller than me.
100 pounds more muscle than you do, though.
Well, it doesn't matter if he was the same size as me. You just don't mess with a guy from Jersey. But right now, he's a few hours away. You can't do anything about it. King Bob, that's right. Don't forget it. Tell you all your friends.
I had a quick one for you.
Well, all right, I've got one right here. Oh, yeah, Hog Farmer. Do you recommend open frames or plastic inserts? I currently have plastic inserts. Good question. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I really prefer plastic frames. I've done wax foundation. I've done foundationless. Nightmare. And I've done a lot of plastic foundation. Plastic foundation works extremely good as long as there's a good wax coat on there and the bees want to draw. And I've said this before, so I'm going to rush through it real quick. But it does not matter if you have the best wax foundation, if you're using the highest quality beeswax on the best plastic foundation. If your bees are in a dearth period or they're not ready to draw for a long period of time, they are not going to draw it. And especially if they're in a dearth period, they are going to chip some of that wax off of there, and they'll repurpose it somewhere else in the colony. And then later when you go to use it and they draw it funny or they don't draw it completely, you're like, what gives? And with wax foundation, the plastic, they'll chip it off the plastic and you'll just have bare plastic. And you just recoat it and boom, you're good. With wax foundation, they'll just chew holes right through it. They'll just chip it up and they'll reuse it to cap brood or something like that, or mix it with resins and make propolis. And so they'll just completely destroy your work on wax foundation. That stinks. So, know when your flows are and what's a good time. And the bees need to either be fed heavily by nature or fed by you to get either one drawn well. Now, also, both of these, all wax, if it's left in a dusty, dry environment, is going to get dry and brittle, and the bees don't like it at that point. And so, always keep this stuff as sealed as possible. If it's in a box, keep it in a nice basement room temperature somewhere in that realm. Don't let it get hot, cold. Try not to let it get dusty, get dry. And ideally, use it as fresh as possible. Beeswax is best fresh. And a good coat. Spend a little bit extra money for a good coat of wax. You'll thank me later. Or coat it yourself. And we have videos on that, by the way.
I'll grab a video link on that real quick. This
Thank
chat,
you.
the YouTube blocked this, but it's a fine question, so I'll read it to you.
Okay.
This is from Jason Norris. I put a virgin queen in a queen clip and put her between frames in a queenless colony. How long should I wait until I release her?
Immediately. So I guess it's a new colony. Did he say new colony? Or is it with the original colony?
I put a virgin queen in a queen clip and put her in between frames in a queenless colony. How long should I wait?
Okay, in a queenless colony. Sorry, I missed that. I wouldn't use smoke or as little disturbance as possible, and definitely we want some feed going on. We want everybody happy in that hive. Thankfully, this time of the year it's a little easier with virgins, but I wouldn't wait any more than 24 hours. At that point, they're either going to be chill with her or not. That virgin needs to get out of that cage, and the best thing that she can do is run around and just do her thing. They'll nip at her feet in those, especially those bigger cages like a queen clip. If they don't like her, they can still, they can still get in a queen clip. Can't they, Chris? I mean, they can just go right on, and it just keeps the queen from getting out.
Yeah, they can. Well, yeah, I mean, workers can get right. Well, yeah, workers.
I haven't used a queen clip in, I don't know, 15 to 20 years. But I remember watching a video recently, and I was noticing that the bees could get in and out. So, they already have access to her, so they're going to kill her one way or the other. If the colony is hopelessly queenless, they will accept her right away. Well, they will or they won't. I've seen them just tear one in half. So this time of the year, the bees are pretty accepting of that kind of stuff. Just don't use a lot of smoke. Let me know in the next live chat how it worked out for you. I don't like fooling with virgin queens. I mean, you can do it, and especially during a flow. Everyone gets along way better, so you can get away with a lot of stuff. We never could do that in June, July, August here. You'll probably get away with it.
This is a good point.
Yeah, and it is possible that they can get through there too, unless it's just a fat virgin, which if that's the case, they'll probably like her very much.
Oh my goodness! All right, lots of good questions.
Okay, so real quick on that wax, that wax rolling one, Chris. Yeah, if you don't mind getting the link for that.
Yeah, and sorry. Yep.
And by the way, we talk about a lot of beeswax. I see videos and Facebook posts, and people are putting like 5 times more wax. You can put too much wax on foundation. Wax is expensive. I sell mine for $10 a pound, and that's like at 5-10 pound blocks at a time. And that's expensive stuff, and there's no reason at all to just fill the bottoms of the cells. And if you don't know how to coat your own foundation, I do recommend in this case watching my video. You do not have to apply that much, and you'll save yourself so much money. You'll be able to wax so much more foundation. It'll work perfectly fine. And you actually put too much in there, it just creates more work for the bees. So Chris just dropped the link there all the way down at the bottom of the comments. All right, so I'm getting to Matt Clark here. Sorry, Chris. I just vetoed it. One thing I've never seen discussed is what do you do with the nurse bees from a cell starter, assuming you aren't doing another round of grafting immediately? Hey, Matt, so that's a great question. So typically, let's say I'm doing a 5-frame cell starter and I'm done, well, or a 10-frame, same concept. With the 5-framer, I'm going to break it in half, and half the bees over here, half the bees over here. Obviously, one will get one more frame than the other. So the one that has the 2 frames, I'll probably keep it in the original location, and the 3 will go to a new location. And I'm going to leave a queen cell if I'm done with it in each one of those. And hopefully I'll get both to come back. And now I'll have 2 really nice queens and some really good bees. And also right before I drop that queen cell and make that split, usually there's 0 brood in there. And so I'll hit them with oxalic acid vapor since they're broodless, and they're just completely as clean as they can get. New queen, young bees that are fat. Those nurse bees, especially since they're not raising brood during that time, they're just so fat. And when that queen comes back and starts laying, they just have crazy amounts of worker jelly that they can produce, and she can just lay. So that's what I do with mine, Matt, and it works fantastic. Thanks for being one of our members and for your question. Mike, can you raise queens with queen cells that the bees are raising to swarm instead of buying queens? And can you make nukes with them? 1000%, Mike. People will say online and in books, don't raise queens from swarm cells because you're breeding for swarming behavior. And, if you have some that are trying to build swarm cells before everything else, yeah, you probably are. But every good, powerful colony wants to swarm. And honestly, if you're not trying to do it for a business, I'm not worried about it. What I would want to do, Mike, is make sure that whenever I make this split with the queen cell, that I put 2 in each one. And I want to be very careful with these. We do not want to invert them a whole lot. We definitely don't want to shake them or drop them. We want to be very careful. And a lot of times they hang off the bottoms if they're fully drawn off the bottom. If you put them in a shallow box or nuke box, you'll crush the bottom of them. And you need to make sure there's plenty of bees. We have cool nights. You need to make sure there's excess amount of bees in there, and they don't have to be fully drawn and capped. If they've got them, about 3-day-old cell, and they've elongated the cup a good bit, and there's all kinds of jelly in there, that's perfectly fine. But you just must make sure there's plenty of bee coverage in there. So let's say you want to make a split, and you're just wanting to get queens mated. Okay, you say you can make nukes with them. Okay, well, take 2 frames of brood, take a frame of food, and then have 2 foundations in there. And then make sure that you have 3 frames that you put in there. I want to shake at least 1 more frame of bees from that original colony in there. We cannot afford that brood to get cold. Two shakes would be even better. It's going to be very strong very quickly. So what? You got to remember, all the forager bees are going to fly back on this split unless you close them up as you make the split and take them to a new yard. And one of the number one mistakes when people make splits, especially their first one, they don't account enough for this. And the brood that they put in that split gets chilled because so much of the bees that were put in there flew back and there wasn't enough to keep it warm. The second mistake with splits is not making sure there's enough food for them. They need at least 1 frame of food, at least. 1 good frame of honey is perfect. But you don't have to have that, but you need to give them sugar syrup. Especially cool nights, young colonies need food. So, but yeah, you can totally use those. Please use those. You'll find that they're great queens, often much better than what you can buy. And it's a doggone good bit of fun. But, if you make 10 of them, probably expect between 6 to 9 to come back. Sometimes you'll get 9 to 10. Sometimes you might only get 6. Usually I get more than 50%. On average, probably about 7.5, 75 to 80% is what I average on stuff like that. So come back 3+ weeks later, leave them alone for a little while. Come back about 21 days later, and you either have a queen or you don't. And in the ones that you don't have a queen that's laying, combine them back with the other ones. And that way you don't have any small hive beetle problems or anything like that. We'll be making 5 splits next week with VSH bee weaver queens from Nova Soda. Well, good luck with that. Like I just said, with all those splitting tips, bee power and food. Bee power. All right, Cookeville, Tennessee swarmed on 3/28. I placed 2 brand new medium supers on with Premier Foundation with double wax. They have not drawn any comb on them. Hive has no laying queen yet. Any advice? So the 28th. All right, so that means they had probably a cap sell at that point. And let's say that it still needed 3 days to emerge. It's been 15, 16 days since then. So 3 days to emerge. And then she's going to run around for a couple days. Let's say that's 6 days. Man, if check that hive 3 to 5 days from now. If you don't have a queen, check it by the end of this week. If you don't have a queen by the end of this week, you need to get one in there or something. And since you're close to me, Ryan, we may have some queens. Check it towards the end of this week and then let me know if you don't have one. And if you don't, we can hook you up. And yeah, they're probably not drawing that foundation right now because they just took a big hit on their old population. Swarms are wonderful at drawing combs, and they just went adios. So you're going to have to wait a little while until you get more older bees ready to draw and the population grows a little bit more. And you need a queen that's laying, forcing all of that nectar that's and pollen that's down below, creating a space for her to lay, and it kind of forces things upward when you have a good laying queen down in there. Good luck. One thing I've never seen is I actually already took that one, Chris. I jumped ahead.
Sorry. I don't know if you got that one. I don't know if you got this
one. Why don't you read it quick, Chris? I have to eat some of these cookies. They're so good.
Hey, Cayman, been beekeeping in Central Florida for 1 year. How do I balance growing my number of hives versus harvesting honey? I haven't done much of either so far.
One of the things that I wish I'd have learned a long time ago is don't try to go for the monster yields. Yeah, in a perfect year here in Tennessee, I can make 150 pounds if I can keep the biggest and baddest colonies together with, and I have drawn combs. Those years don't come super often. And it's really hard to keep big, powerful colonies like that together because, funny enough, bees want to make more bees and they want to swarm. And where you're fighting that when you're trying to do that. So, typically, what I do before the swarm season starts, and this is we're going to have to talk to people in your region before your swarm season starts. I like to go ahead and cut the bees back. And if there's, if it's a strong double and they're just about to the point where they're starting to think about making swarm cells, we're going to go in there and we're going to pull half the broods. If there's 10 frames of brood, five goes. And we'll make a split with that. And that's how you get your numbers up. And also you're eliminating a lot of your swarming. And especially if you have a lot of drawn combs in your back pocket and you'll get there, then you can just plug those in like a cassette and boom, now that other queen can lay. You have this new split over here. And that new split that you made over here, give them a little bit of room to lay, but then add a super because it's still before your flow starts. I do it before our flow starts. And no, you may not make the monster yield off of your big hive, but I find that I actually do pretty well cutting them back because I don't lose as many swarms. And also because I now have another colony and in a good year. If I put them in a single deep and then I put an excluder on that new split and I have some drawn combs, sometimes they'll make a super. And so you get your honey, you double your good colonies in your operation, and you don't lose near as many swarms. And honestly, we make more money with bees than we do with honey. Now, I know that honey is great, and we really like to do that. And in Florida, selling bees is a lot more competitive than it is in a lot of other places. So I understand that. But good luck with that. So you've only been beekeeping for 1 year, so you got a lot of work to do. Combs, keep those mites low, enjoy the process, and when in doubt, cut them back a little bit. You might make a little bit less honey. Just run more bees. If your goal is to make 2,000 pounds of honey, keep enough bees. In a perfect year, you could make 3,500 to 4,000 pounds of honey. And then if you make way too much honey, well, you have a good problem on your hands. Or just sell more bees. Just sell any excess. Okay, scrolling down, Chris. Scrolling down.
All right, now you're good. I had the next one for you, and I've lost it. Aha. Somebody was asking about.
Here's one from Amanda. I'm going to take real fast.
All right.
Hey, Amanda. So you have two news coming. You have drawn. I have drawn out comb on frames. Would you run one deep brood box or two deep brood boxes? So you have combs. If it's a good 5-frame nuke and you had combs you could put on each side, you could put an excluder on there and run it a single if you have drawn honey supers. If you only have foundation to give them, then you cannot do that. Don't use an excluder until you have comb above it. And it may be a little ambitious too. It is always good to have plenty of brood combs. But definitely give them those combs. That'll speed things up really quick. You possibly could do that, but you've got to have some drawn mediums to be able to give them above that single deep, or it just won't work. By the time they commit to drawing that foundation, they'll have plugged up the brood nest and they'll swarm as a single for sure. So I would focus, if you don't have those mediums, put them in with that comb. Once they are, brooding and covering 7.5 frames, throw on your second box. And if you have a little bit more comb to give them that as well. And then if not, just start drawing foundation. And then when about 5 to 6 frames in that second box are occupied and being used by the bees, go ahead and if you got foundation to give them, go ahead and put it on. We really want them to start getting used to this and drawing it quickly. We don't want to wait too late. And so go ahead and put that on, and don't use an excluder until after they've drawn out about 1 or 2 frames up into that medium. You'll just need to shake them off because sometimes the queen will go up there and lay. It does not hurt anything if she lays a little bit into that. It'll help get it started, and that's not a problem. I really hate this chair. Whoever designed the little armrest on here obviously never sat in one.
Okay, I got your question for you that we missed. At least I don't remember you answering this one from Spencer.
Hey, Spencer, is anyone experiencing their bees being more aggressive than normal? I have a few colonies that are a lot more aggressive than they were last year going into winter. So certain times of the year, like when I'm working my bees in February, they start brooding up a little bit. Oh, man, they do not like me at all. And it just gets progressively more chill as more flying days are going on. But like right now, like today, I did a little bit of beekeeping after church. Not a lot. I just went through like 40 hives, whatever. So, and Chris did too. We both were almost late. I still smell like smoke. You had time for a shower though. And, now the bees are so busy. Like the ones that are really headhunters typically are the ones that are now going for pollen. They're bringing water to the colony. They're hopefully bringing nectar too. And most of them are preoccupied. So, a huge percentage of them are away from the colony. And there's just different types of time of the year and weather conditions. So the same colony could be ill at one time or the other. I don't know what time of year you're at, Spencer. But yeah, we definitely see the same colonies, same queens, same bees go through, different seasons and their behavior towards us. I can't say that I've ever experienced anything like that in my life before. Do you have any idea who to purchase queens from? I need about 25 of them. I was looking to get them the week of April 28th. Paul, why don't you email us at caymansbees@gmail.com? I do have a contact. He doesn't like me blasting him all over the internet. He does have like a minimum order of about 2 dozen queens. And that's the reason he doesn't like it, is because he'll get people, hundreds of them, that are asking for 1 or 2 queens. And, it's just time, But yeah, if you want to email me, caymansbees@gmail.com about queens, I can hook you up.
Real quick, I want to address Jason Norris just asked why he's blocked. He's not blocked. It was the message. There were a bunch of like keywords that YouTube thought was bad. So you're not blocked, Jason. So
Yeah, sorry about that, Jason. And we see this all the time. Like, I'll be looking into my comments for the week. Hey, Paul. And I'll be looking into all the behind the scenes comments that got shoved into the back for suspicious behavior. And sometimes it's people posting a link to another YouTube video. It triggers it as a spam. It could be someone recommending a Bob Benny video. I have no problem with that. It could be sometimes like people accidentally word things a certain way to where it sounds like a sales pitch. And even if it's not, it kicks it into the back. And so, that's what you got to love about all these computers is that they're stupid and they make stupid decisions. Some of the computer people say they're only as smart as the people who program them. Well, whatever. It happens. So I rarely ban anybody. Like, you have to do something really dumb. You have to be asking for it. And there's people who do ask, and we answer. YouTube doesn't want us to talk about. I'm sure. I can't say that.
no, you don't need to address it. We can move on. I just wanted to laugh about that. There you go.
That is funny.
No, don't make me mute you.
I know. I'm thinking of Aladdin and a few other things.
Don't stop it.
What type of nectar are the bees bringing in now in Gainesboro? I have two. Okay, so we have, you'll see these little flowers along the roadsides and especially the creeks and rivers, and that is fringed phacelia. We just call them snow flowers because it looks like just a bunch of snow along the banks. And it's one of my favorites. It produces pollen, also produces a little bit of nectar. If you're in an area that has autumn olive, that is a very good producer. And we do have some wild cherry going. I don't like the nectar, but the autumn olive is a big contributor this time of the year. We haven't had black locust yet. There's been a couple rumors of people seeing a few of them starting to open, but I haven't seen anything yet here. And I want to say a big thank you again to Paul Martins for supporting us. Finally beginning to warm up here in Massachusetts. Looking forward to getting into my hives. Good luck, Paul. Hope you have a great season. I know you got some good honey up there. And thanks for being one of our members and supporting us again. Next question, Chris.
All right, scrolling back down. You address that one, that one, that one, that one.
Hey, sweet Harlan honeybees. It's going really good. I mean, it is full throttle. But it's going great, and it's good. I really like that picture. Shameless plug of both of you winning more ribbons. You guys have, I don't know how many ribbons you've won at our shows, but it's got to be quite a bit. And we really appreciate you bringing so many cool things to the show every year and coming back to our Bee Expo. I hope you guys have a great season and some more award-winning honeys and other things that y'all do. If you shave beeswax and leave the shavings on an inner cover, will the bees be able to use that faster than making their own? Bees do repurpose wax, but it's like when they want to. And I don't think they use it the way we want them to, because people have toyed around with stuff like that. It's like pollen sub, right? Let's say it's February in Tennessee and there's no pollen and it's 60 degrees. So they're all out. You can stick Ultra Bee out and the bees will mop it. I mean, you can't see the bucket in my bee yards. There's so many bees on it. You stick that same thing in the hive and they kick it out of the hive, and then they'll forage it out from underneath the hive. It's all about stimuli. What's this dust in our hive? This Ultra Bee. Why is it in here like that? The same thing with beeswax is like you can put it on the foundation and they'll like pull it and shape it and elongate it out. But it seems like to me, and I could be wrong here, I'd love to hear from someone who knows more about this than me, because I don't know that much and I like to learn more. Not that I know a bunch. But my personal experience is you can leave it out. We'll leave beeswax out. And it seems like the only time that they're going after it is when they're making propolis and sealing up the hives, and a little bit for the brood cappings for capping the brood. But part of the reason that they, I think, use that for capping the cappings in the brood is that's also a mixture of propolis. It's not all just beeswax. And so I think they kind of consider that more like propolis that they're gathering out there versus seeing that as a wax. I think in the hive, they're just going to kick that out mostly. You can try it. I've tried it, never had any good success with that. Um, but it doesn't seem to work. Just in my personal opinion, melt it down, rolled on some foundation. That works. We do know that works.
All right. Question here from a different Steve.
I got in my hive today, noticed a lot of drone comb on the bottom of the frames. Pulling out the frames didn't end well for the drone brood. Do you scrape the brood off the bottom or leave it? So, if it's within the bottom bar and it's not sticking out really funny or something, I'll leave it because, drones have their purpose and all that kind of stuff. But also, if people want to trim it off and slow down some of the mites that are in there, that's fine too. Now, if it's hanging off the bottoms of the bottom bar, or really far off the sides, I do trim that off. And it does stink having to eliminate those drones and stuff. But I take solace knowing that I'm killing some mites when I do that. And 2, I'm crushing less bees upon further inspection, because that can really cause aggressive bees, is when you're pulling out frames and you're crushing bees. I take time on like every colony. Every February or March at some point, every box gets the frame rest scraped out. All that beeswax buildup gets scraped out. Any funky things on the bottom of the frames, it all gets scraped out. Bottom board buildup gets scraped out. It's a lot of extra work, but the entire rest of the year, moving frames, pulling frames, doing anything is way, way easier. And a lot of people comment in my videos like, oh man, your bees don't glue things down like mine do. Oh yeah, they do. I just clean it up once a year. And sometimes if I have time and I see them doing it again, I go ahead and do it again, because I don't like to crush bees. And a lot of times that'll do that. So yeah, that's my answer, Steve. Always a long answer with me. I don't know what my problem is. The funny thing is, my cousins always picked on me for talking too much as a kid, said I never amount to anything. I still haven't amounted to much, but there's 323 people right now listening. So either you're terribly bored or desperate.
Okay, we're gonna go 3 Steves in a row here.
3 Steves? How many Steves does it take to ask a question in a bee chat? I don't know. Cayman, what is your preferred mite treatment for fresh splits? Somebody's here. Who's here? Tell them to go away. Especially if there's someone that's on this live chat. Chris, can you take over for 1 second? I don't want my wife shooting anybody. She sounds sweet on the YouTube channel. Dangerous woman. I'm saving a life here. This won't take but a second. I'll be right back and might have something to share.
I hope not. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. I gave you a little lowdown on what's going on at the expo. Don't mess with Laurel. Yeah, for sure. She makes amazing homemade bread, though. Man, amazing homemade bread. I'll give you an update on the expo. It's what I've been working on a ton for Cayman. So we have lots of great new movement. We have the contract being officially signed and all that fun stuff. We should have the tickets live here in about we should have the tickets live here in about 2 weeks. So May 1st is what we're shooting for. There's a couple things that have to fall into place, but we have lots of fun new things planned this year. We have lots of we took a lot. Yeah, obviously, we take a lot of your feedback every single year, so we're really working on all that. So there should be no issues on that. Oh, good Lord, you can't bring that on your YouTube.
Oh, I'm back.
I muted you just in case there were any loud pitch noises.
Blam.
Yeah, I was just real quick. A lot came out. Yeah, I was just updating them on the expo. I was just saying that we're We're about 2 weeks-ish away. Well, really kind of 3, but 2 weeks away from the tickets going on sale. As long as everything continues to go that direction,
Mhm.
we got some great work on a lot of stuff. Yes. So Keith Spillman, hotel info. So that's part of what we want to go live on the same day.
Mhm.
We're actually working with a couple different Louisville partners on that that are actually going to provide like better short-term like flash sales for anyone anyone who wants to buy their hotel like that first week the tickets go on
Mhm.
sale. They're going to have an even better deal than they will the rest of the time, and that's an incentive for them, incentive for everybody else to book with them. But I don't want to give any more away. Where there's lots of really great things, and we should have a really cool event at one of the hotels. For anyone who wants to stay there, you're going to get a great price on it, and it's going to be a really great time. So, lots more info to come as we keep going. So,
Yeah, thanks for the update, Chris. And can I say a little bit about the Crown Plaza, what we're thinking about doing, just a little bit?
sure, yeah, go for it. Spill beans.
So, yes, it's if I don't spoil something, I just don't feel like my day is completed. So, we are looking with the Crown to have for the people who are staying there a special event. They have a lot of space, and hey, Bees in the Abyss, we want to be able to have like a really cool after hours dealio. And so have like all the VIPs and stuff and have finger foods or maybe even dinner. We're looking into both of those options. But we're definitely looking to have that to where the people who stay there will have a really cool shindig to get to hang out with each other and also get to hang out with any of the VIPs. We are actually looking at possibly having a bluegrass band at the hotel too. So there's a lot of logistics there, and we have a very short time to do it. And it happens to be swarm season, honey season, nuke selling season, and all the other seasons. Who was the idiot who said, let's open tickets May the 1st? What a moron.
No comment. I don't. It was that Ohio neighbor down the road from you.
Well, that's actually who showed up to the house. And, he, I can't say much, but he
That's
showed up.
probably that's the best case scenario of what I was imagining. So
Yeah. Well, it's always those Ohio people. So annoying. What is it with you guys? We just can't get rid of you.
I'm
All
gonna put
jokes
you on
aside, he's actually doing some more welding for me, and he's working on a rock and roll band. If it was a good one, I love rock and roll. Good classic rock and roll. So it's actually the 650 that I have. I'm getting another toolbox welded on and a couple more winches onto the C channel for the 4-inch straps that we're going to be throwing across. Now that I've got that forklift and that 20-foot flatbed, we're able to move bees a lot easier. I actually moved bees for the first time with it week before last, and I moved bees again down into the autumn olive, and it was learning curves, man. Just a lot of stuff. You can watch all the Bob Benny videos in the world, but when you do it yourself for the first time, it's still not quite the same.
I do have to do a quick shameless plug. If y'all haven't watched Cayman's newest video and you need a good comedy session, sit down and watch it. It is you won't learn a single thing about catching a swarm, but you're going to learn a whole lot about how to hold a great YouTube comedy session. So it's
I haven't checked the comments today, but Laurel is always. It's frustrating. I'm pretty good at finding arrowheads. I'm pretty good at finding queens. I literally located like 30 of them today. But it's like she always one ups me whenever she's around. It's I don't know if she's trying or if it's God, poking at me like listen to your wife a little bit more. Whatever it is, it's just crazy. I can't find arrowheads anymore. She always beats me to them. She found the queen in the YouTube video. It's awesome. It really is. But sometimes I like to win. Cayman, I have loppers for you when I come pick up my Corey Stevens nuke. How to catch bees on your head. Yep. Talon definitely was getting them on his hood 100%. That bluegrass band that was at the Hives for Heroes dinner was last year was darn good. I heard that they were really darn good. I really wanted to be there. There's just always logistics 24/7 with the conference, so I can't have that fun. But I heard that they were really good. I also heard it was like sardines in there. They couldn't fit another Craig midget in there to save their life. I watched the video of your wax job. I would like to buy 5 pounds of your wax. So that's one thing, Hog Farmer, that we're going to get to soon. We were hoping to already have it done by now, but Chris is just, so busy with the logistics on this expo and also editing some videos. We probably won't have that on our website, I would say, till sometime around June. And we're just so busy, we're not able to ship it out right now. But we will be shipping our honey and beeswax and stuff in the future. So just watch out for that.
Real quick, while you hit on that too, I know many of you might have requested some flash drives, buying them for your bee groups, your classes, etc. So I'll address that real quick because I'm handling that. So we finally have all the flash drives in and everything all set. So anyone who has sent me an email requesting their group to get the videos digitally or on flash drive, you'll be receiving an email tomorrow just stating that we're working on it. I highly recommend, if you are getting it, that you get the flash drive. There's a lot of unfortunate logistics, like with a traditional B group, of having a streaming option. You can't preload the video and some stuff like that. With a flash drive, obviously, just plug it into a TV or into anything, and you should be able to watch it. And we do have available for sale both last year, that's 2024, as well as this year, 2025 videos. So if you guys are looking for any, again, this is for B groups, anything like that. Again, those are not the private codes you get for being an attendee. This is for public consumption at a B group. Feel free to email me. You'll find all that info in the Cayman Reynolds Facebook group. So
awesome, and those are really nice. For anyone who's got a bee club or anything like that, and sometimes you have a hard time getting speakers or fresh material, you can get these for $175 for your club only to view, and your club owns it for your group. But you guys can watch all of these lectures from the expo, and heck, a lot of times you pay more than that for one speaker, and you get to enjoy all of these lectures to fill in the gaps. Obviously, it's better to have somebody live, but sometimes you can't, and that's where these videos really come in. They're very high quality. All right, Barry, Tennessee Vols. Ooh, I like the Tennessee part, Barry. Vols. No, thanks for being a YouTube member and for being around for a while. Really appreciate you. Good luck getting a quarterback. I absolutely loved the head coach's response to the quarterback situation and all of that. I thought it was kind of funny that the guy's last name looked like "I'm a leaving you." That was so funny. ECP, Chris, thanks for coming in and supporting us yet again. We are looking forward to seeing you as well and having some stellar nukes for you. It'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. You got a ton of questions here.
I swiped one because it was close. Chicken for eggs. Question about scout bees. I have some at my roof line. I am worried they might try to move in. What is the best way to deter bees from moving into an outer wall once they have shown interest? Oh, you could put some things that are deterrent. There's some products out there that are like almond oil, which is what's used a lot of times for escape material, like fume board material, and it pushes bees out. I wonder though, if they're around your roof line, could it be they're actually bees collecting water, or not? Sometimes the bees get around, like my air conditioning unit, where the condensation builds up and then it drips off, and they just are constantly getting water. So I'd wonder about that, chicken for eggs. But if not, yeah, there's a few products out there, or you could use the product BeGo, which is butyric acid. In the infamous words of Gus Mitchell, it smells like cheese vomit. That keeps everything away. Neighbors, mailman, friends, family. That can be useful. Okay. My bees love gutter water, lots of minerals. Yeah, they love I think the decaying leaf matter or something that sometimes gets in there. I mean, no, we always keep our gutters clean. Whew, yeah. That's funny. Have you figured out which hive had the swarm? They lost a lot of bees. Oh, hey, Keith, good question. So in today's video that we released, it was actually 2 days ago. I think it was filmed. We actually went in and checked today. Talon and I, he came over after church, and he was just curious. He lives about 15 minutes from me. So anyhow, we went in there, and the March queen, obviously, that came from one of my hives, but it was that one I figured had the bulk majority of the bees. Probably around 8 to 9 frames of bees, so a good respectable swarm. However, when we put some of them in the Apame hive and some of them in a wood hive with the queen, and when we opened up the wood hive, we found a dead queen in there. Those bees killed that virgin queen, so there was obviously a virgin in there. It's very likely there could be more. We looked in the Apame hive, we didn't see a queen. That doesn't mean there isn't one. I mean, for all we know, even this quickly, she could be maybe on a mating flight, or they're just hard to spot sometimes. There's just so many bees in there. But if I had to guess, there's at least 20. If all of it was drawn out into combs, there'd be 20 frames of bees, or very close. It's quite huge. The March Queen is just fine. We released her today, and she just went down on the 2 frames of combs that we gave them. The rest is foundation. I did give them some feed and we do have some cold nights, but they are out foraging and bringing a lot of stuff in. So that's kind of where it's at. I'm hoping that we have another queen in the Apame hive, and so we'll end up with 2 queens. But it kind of does stink that that virgin got canned. But they looked at that mated queen versus the virgin queen, and this is definitely 2 swarms. This wasn't just one massive swarm. And so that can happen a lot of times when bees combine, is you end up with one champ at the end of the day. Sometimes, though, when you pull them apart, you can find multiple queens, and I've done that before. Honestly, I'm kind of if I had the time for that, like that swarm was a super inconvenient thing for me. One, I don't want my bees to swarm, but 2, I just don't have the time for it right now. I've got so much going on. I got more Corey Stephen queens coming in. We've got to get those in. We've got honey production going on. If it's like a small swarm and it's high up and going to be a pain, nature gets to have that one. So, but there was a time I used to risk breaking all my arms and my neck to get a little swarm of bees. So I get it. I can just make a lot of splits these days, and it's a lot easier and less dangerous, and it's Laurel approved. East Tennessee, Decatur. I have 3 hives with emerged queens in the last 2 weeks. How long before I should see signs of a properly mated queen? Plenty of drones in the colony, 0 luck last year. So you really need to just kind of leave them for a little while. So if they emerge, let's say if you know really closely when they emerged, at least I usually give them like 15, 16 days. If you think they're going to emerge on this day, she could be in there for a few days before she flies, and then the weather might not be good, so that's a couple more days. And then she's going to go mate for sometimes a couple of days, and then she's going to come back, and she's might not start laying well for a couple of days. She might start laying a little bit, but not get things going. So, there's no reason to rush it. 15, 16 days from the time there's an emerged virgin, I think, is a safe bet. If it's a very young cell, though, that's a little too fast. So give them a little bit of time, and good luck with that, Pat. And if all of them don't come back, maybe combine some of them together. It's always frustrating when this kind of stuff happens, and this is again why I've gotten to the point pre-swarm season, which in my area, if we don't watch it, we'll have swarms start the second week of March. So we have to really be proactive at pulling the big ones back and keeping them in room, and sometimes even rotating some frames or whole boxes around. keeping them in space. But at a certain point before the honey flow starts, we split them all. We just go ahead and split them all. Take the old queen and split them. Get some more bees, and it doesn't have to be a huge split. And we can sell that as a nuke. Buy a queen, sell that as a nuke. $200 something, boom, right there. And now your other colonies not likely to swarm, and it'll make definitely as much honey as a colony that did swarm. So that's kind of where I've gotten at. That's just my personal way of doing it. Okay. Did you ever say which mite treatment you prefer for splits? There was a lot going on, and I think it got passed over. So, Steve, preferable mite treatment for splits is something that's not going to disrupt the colony. So, and I like more natural things. So, this day and age, oxalic acid, Viroxan, if we're not wanting to actually do a timed split. So, we would do like Viroxan with it, and the mites are getting chipped away slowly. But if we're actually wanting to create like a little bit of a brood break while we're doing it, oxalic acid vapor can do really good. A lot of times, like, make the split of a Saturday, have another queen coming later on the next week, and then right before you introduce that new queen, you go in and you crush every cell in that split, because they will try to make their own. And now you actually have increased a little bit of your chances of that queen getting accepted, because they really can't make the queen at that point. So they don't have a lot of options. And you've also created more mite exposure by the day, more and more. And so now that queen is going to go in there, we're going to open up the candy, and they'll eventually release her. I want to put a little bit of feed on during this time. It helps the introduction. We don't want to put any scented stuff, just a little bit of feed. And now I'm going to wait about 9 to 10 days after introduction before I go in. The queen, because it'll take her a day or two to get out, and it'll take her a day or two to lay. And so that'll be about 7 days from the time you'd like to see her laying. And so you should have some brood in there, but none of that brood will be capped, because it takes 9 days from the time the queen starts laying to where it is capped. So you've had this 7 days. Now, all that period from when you introduce the queen, and that's going to be another 9-ish to 10 days. So we're talking a break here of a little under a brood cycle. It's about 17 days, 18 days, depending on how you do it. And we can hit them with oxalic acid vapor once we know that queen's laying, before her brood is capped. And we're going to thrash the mites with that one treatment. We got a new queen, we got a new split, we put a little bit of oxalic acid vapor, and boom. If you don't want to be that detailed about it with the timing, then I recommend Viroxan. Apivar is not doing a good job anymore, so I don't recommend that. There is a new Apivar product coming out, Apivar 2, but I don't know if it'll work good with queens. One of the things about Apivar that made it work good with splits, when you're doing an introduction at the same time, or a queen cell. Typically, I just do a queen cell and then put the strips in at the same time I drop the queen cell. And that worked good back when Apivar was killing mites. This one's supposed to be a hot flash, though, and then an extended release. So I don't know if that will disrupt the process or not. I haven't used it. I don't know anyone who has. I don't think it's out yet. I think we will, outside with Mom and the boys. Good to hear that you guys are getting some pollen in today. I hope your season's really good for you guys. What part of Wisconsin? Any words on videos from the expo? Yeah, Dwayne, all of those were sit out. Oh gosh, was it late February, the first week of March, something like that? We did a lot of posts about it. We sent an email. Whatever email you used to pay for the tickets, that is where it went to. When you guys fill out the tickets, you can email Chris at caymansbees.com to ask about the videos. But, when you guys fill out the tickets, it literally has all that information on there. I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but I am trying to, get people to try to keep up with this stuff, because it's brutal on us having to keep up with thousands of people. And it takes a lot of time. Apivar 2A, making it stronger. Absolutely. But yeah, the videos are available right now, but there is like a time limit. We can't spend all year long getting people videos. So I think it's still within that time window. But yeah, whatever email you guys bought the tickets with, it got that ticket from, that is where the videos were sent to. You'll have a coupon code. I even made a special video in the email we sent it on how to access it. How long after you make a split will you introduce the caged queen? So, hey Deb, good to, well, maybe you don't like to go by Deb, so sorry about that. That's what my mom goes by. My mom's a Deborah as well, but she usually, my dad always calls her Deb. Uh, Deborah, good to hear from you. Thanks for being part of our honey show in the past, and being our grand champion reserve. So, how long after making a split will you introduce a caged queen? If we're just wanting to make a split, I typically just go ahead and introduce it at the same time, that like with that same day. What we'll do is we'll make the splits up, go through, a yard of 30, 40 colonies, whatever's in that yard, make the splits, and then we take them to a new location, and then we usually drop the cages in there. And that way it kind of suppresses their desire to start building cells. However, these days I'm really enjoying. I mean, I don't buy a lot of mated queens too, and that's the thing. I don't do that a lot. I do it some, but not a whole lot. I really prefer queen cells, and it gives me a little bit more time for mite treatment. But I usually do it immediately. However, I have in the last couple of years started doing it where I'll make the splits a week before, and then I'll just crush, like I said earlier, all of the cells a week later. Whenever I have the queens arriving, I usually plan the splits a week ahead, and then you can put in some product in there to be really taking advantage of all that mite exposure and just crushing the populations. And this works really well for me. It does take a lot more work, and I understand that, but it's nothing that I know you can't handle, and anybody else can't. And getting a leg up on the mites is fantastic. And I also like to point out, if you're making splits with a lot of capped brood, then the original parent colony also has a big hiccup. You're taking a lot of mites over to the new split. Even if there's only 200 mites in there, if you're taking a lot of the capped brood, you might be taking 100 of them over to the new split. And you also probably have an imbalance of capped brood over here and less capped brood over here. It's an opportunity to do a little bit of a mite cleanup on that hive as well. An oxalic acid flash, maybe come back a handful of days later and do it again. And I just really think, we like to call these smart splits. It's a lot more laborious, but keeping mite populations low is just the ticket for having big fat bees going into winter, and we like that very much. What's your thoughts on Knoxville locust trees in full blossom? That's crazy. That's what I think, Patrick. I haven't seen any of, I have some in my yard. They're not blooming yet, but it's amazing. Like, I have buddies down in, just an hour and a half south of me, and they have all kinds of stuff blooming I don't have quite yet, or it's just starting here. So, and even Nashville, which is a little bit different than us, it's not a lot. It's mostly just straight east, just slightly south, but the elevation difference matters as well. And it's amazing what a few days can do. A few days on a good honey flow, it's pounds, dozens of pounds of nectar. So yeah, I have my buddies like, oh yeah, we're raking it in. I'm like, get out of here. But I've talked to them for over 10 years, and I've come to realize that that's very consistent. Usually I'm about a week behind those fellas. So it's actually pretty useful. So that's crazy, Patrick. Quit bragging about it and all that stuff. I'm just going to sit over here and wait. Introduced a mated queen into a split, and upon inspection, she was accepted and walking around. But a week later, I didn't notice any eggs or larvae. She may have been banked for a week. Normal. So no, that's not normal. Now there's a lot of weird things I've seen over the years, and boy, this, it can be quite varied on what could be happening. So I've had queens that are just massive looking. They're beautiful. And they start laying. And as fast as they start laying, the bees cannibalize the eggs. And there's something wrong with them. Is she laying all drones? Was she not mated properly? What gives? I don't know. But I've had some of my own queens do that. Most of them don't. I mean, it's very rare. But sometimes we'll have a good queen and they'll keep her and she'll be laying, but it'll never turn into actual larvae and capped brood. And then sometimes, and that's kind of more rare than this other thing. What else could happen is like you made a split, and sometimes on these splits, they go ahead and start making emergency queens. And that doesn't mean that they won't accept your queen. A lot of times they will. The problem of it is they don't always tear down the cells upon noticing this new queen that has become the queen of the colony. And she'll lay for a little bit, and in short order, this virgin emerges from this emergency cell. And virgins are really good at killing mated queens. Very good. And so I've had that happen many times. So whenever I make a split, I want to introduce the queen cage that day to try to suppress that. Or better yet, and I'm starting to like this more and more, make a split several days before, 5 to 7 days before. Allow them to create those emergency cells and then introduce and then crush them. And so now all the brood's really too old for them to be even able to make a queen, even an inferior queen at this point. And now we're going to introduce our queen cage, and that really ups your chances. I don't know if it's either one of those things, Jay Ryan. Keep me posted on that, please, and good luck. Bees are weird, especially if you introduce a good queen into a bunch of old bees. Sometimes they'll just keep her around long enough to lay a little bit so they can make their own emergency queen. Queen issues are the #2 reason for loss in my apiary. Queen related events. Oops, we lost one to a swarm. And or this or that, whatever it is, queen related. We have queen related issues, and it happens. And anyone who's not planning for it is going to find themselves queen poor. And so this time of the year, I make too much queens, and I have small little nukes after the flow's over. We're talking like 50 of them. That can range from 3 to 5 frames of bees and brood. And these nukes are only for fixing colonies. Newspaper combines. And we use a lot of them. Some of them don't end up getting used, and we try to overwinter them. But it works so much better than trying to introduce a queen. So queen rich, queen rich. I might have missed this, but how many days should I wait before I do an OA treatment after installing a package? So I want to install the package, and you can do it early, but if they're really clustered up in the package, it doesn't permeate the cluster and doesn't hardly kill any mites. You can, if you're going to do it early, you need to install them and not allow the queen to emerge. Let them spread out on some frames a little bit and then hit them with oxalic acid. But typically, I prefer to we really want that queen out of there. We want her laying, and I don't want to wait around. So I install them. I've got a video on this, and come back 2 days later. The queen candy on the first day, it gets opened. 2 days later, they should have that open. And I just go in there. Don't usually use any smoke because I don't want to disrupt anything during that process. And I just pull the cage out so they draw the foundation good. If it's comb, I don't even worry about it. And then I am going to do a treatment 9 days after I install that package of oxalic acid vapor. This should give her time to have laid for a few days, and it'd be okay. But her brood won't be capped yet. So 9 days. You probably can wait 10 days, even though they cap on day 9. She should not be laying that quickly. So probably wait till 10 days after package installation. Let's see here. Oh, I jumped. If you make a split that doesn't take or work out, how do you introduce those bees back into an existing hive? So if there's a honey flow going on and everything's great, tons of pollen, tons of honey, if it, let's say it's a nuke or a single, whatever, and I usually have a bunch of colonies in every yard, so I shake those bees into a strong colony or into another medium-sized colony to give them a boost. Or at the entrance, you can make a little ramp up to your colonies. Mine are on pallets now. That's pretty low to the ground. Make a little ramp, shake all the bees off the combs at the entrance, and just let all the nurse bees march on up. All the forager bees will go back to the original location, but you took away everything that they had. And so now they're going to have to drift back into the other colonies. And during a flow, this works really good with very little to no bee loss. You do this during a dearth period, and it's Armageddon. Everybody dies. It's like full on warfare, just thousands of bees. So during a dearth period, we're going to use a newspaper and we're going to combine that, doing a newspaper combine. But yeah, if there's a flow going on, shake the frames out in front of another colony. If we want to give those combs to that colony after we shake them out in the front, I just like making them march in, going through that process. Can you combine them to the colony just immediately? Probably. I think it's better to be safe than sorry. Let the guards check them at the door. And if they're cool with it, the hive's cool with it. And let the foragers have to go their own way. Cayman, what's your thoughts about the honeybee vaccine? Way to ask a hard question, Jeremy Lindsay. I don't know. I haven't used it yet. I do know that our bee industry is not in a position to be picky or whiny, and we're often both. I'm not talking about everybody, but we're definitely whiny. But then when somebody comes out with a new product, we don't like that either. And I'll be the first to admit, I hardly ever go to the doctor. I hardly do anything like that unless I really feel the need, and it takes a lot to get me there. I don't see those guys. I don't want to see those guys. They're expensive. A lot of times I spend a lot and I don't even know what they did. We're all right. Enough's enough. So if I puncture my liver or anything like that, I want to see a doctor really fast. Now, at the same time, I try to be an individual who sits down and doesn't get too biased. And because of maybe a bad instance or two, I just close my mind off entirely to everything related to that. I don't think it's very productive. And these vaccines were created for specific jobs, and I think had very extremely good intentions and did some really good at certain times. Vaccines are a lot different than these. I'm not saying about how necessarily they're made, but how they're pushed. Originally is to save people, and that was it. We have kids that need these now. And now it's like, get your free one, line up today. And just nothing is free. Nothing is free, but maybe the air that you breathe. And so, yeah, I'm a little skeptical about all that stuff. But at the same time, I do realize there are good people out there in the medical industry. There are great people out there who are doing commercial farming. I don't agree with all those practices. There are some great commercial beekeepers, and I don't agree with their practices. And there are some hobby beekeepers that think they are God's gift to beekeeping, and they're idiots. And they usually have some type of master title to go with it. So, there's idiots everywhere. And some days it's me. So I really try to be really careful making an opinion really fast. I've talked to these people in person. I've been wrong a lot. And I don't know. I do know that our bee industry is important. Oh, better get my tinfoil. Oh, taking vaccines. Jake, get out of here. Besides, Jake, you're so big. Your immune system's so big. Germs can't even withstand it. It's like trying a little pirate taking on a battleship or something like that. Just don't stand a chance. Jake helps me with the conference. He's from Kentucky. Don't listen to him. I love the way you articulate. There's articulation to this. Wow, Chris, write this down. All jokes.
I'm taking copious notes.
Yeah, I'm sure you're taking notes on what not to do in the next live chat. All jokes aside, I know that our industry needs a lot of help right now. We have tropal laps in the future. I hope It's a long ways in the future, but it's likely going to be in my lifetime. And what's going to be done about that? We also have viruses, and we're going to have new viruses. And this is where I really, I used to be a treatment-free beekeeper, and I have very good friends that are treatment-free beekeepers. And some of the people that hate me the most are treatment-free beekeepers. But I'm all about what I try to be common sense, right? And some people just think that everything can just get over anything. We don't do that with anything else, but some reason with bees, they're supposed to be able to just get over everything on their own with no help from anybody. And it's just like, just let nature always figure itself out. Well, nature's way of figuring things out is sometimes extinction or degradation. Do you guys not, of course, I've been out farming since before I was even a teen and stuff. There are a lot of plants and stuff that just aren't what they were even when I was a kid or when my grandpa was a kid. And there are plants that are gone. There are things that are gone, or they're in a diminished capacity. Bees are no different. It's all math. How many things are stressing our bees out? How many things are going for our bees versus how many things are going against our bees? We have a lot of things going against our bees. People are destroying habitat. And not all by sprays. Sometimes it's just development. Lack of habitat, that's a plus we're losing. We're also losing a lot of ground with new pests, new hornets, new strains of viruses. Varroa mites getting tougher. Different strains of possible nosema and stuff like that. Just all kinds of things can happen. You really struck a nerve, Jeremy, but it's something that we talk about a lot on this side. And we want to do everything that we can to be open-minded to protect our bee industry from another Varroa incident. For anyone who is wondering what I'm talking about, when Varroa came over, it reshaped the entire industry. Obviously, it's still here. It's not like what it was, and it was a lot stronger and bigger back then. It was easier to keep bees, and it's taken us decades to kind of reach an equilibrium with Varroa, and most of us are still not doing it right. I'm not trying to be mean, but people talk about, oh, I lost my bees again. I guarantee you most of them had no clue what their mite loads were in early September and August. You need the best, healthiest bees in August and September. And so, we still haven't quite got that ironed out as a community. Way to go, Jeremy. He's broke the live chat. And I want people to be successful. And I want our industry to be successful. I want it to be, if my kids take this up, I want them to be able to enjoy it and be happy. So the vaccines, I have no clue. I'm interested. It's basically dead bacteria going into the Varroa mites. No, excuse me. Going into the bees, and supposedly there's some benefits towards viruses and stuff like that. We don't know yet. We got to try these things out. And my philosophy is, with my business and with life, we just keep trying until we find solutions. And I don't expect to be successful with everything. There's several products out there. Very excited. Viroxan, another oxalic acid product on the market coming up. New APIVAR2 product coming out. We have the RNAi stuff with Greenlight Biosciences. This is vaccine stuff. We have not, in my lifetime, had this much innovation. We have the Apivera stuff. There's some other things in the works as well. A friend of mine is developing something I can't talk about right now. And so it's exciting. This is what we need. All I need is one of those things to be awesome, and we win.
Hey, and Cayman, I want to add to that real quick. Just as simple as when we had that discussion with Everett and it was Amy, right? Everett, Amy.
Yes, Everett and Amy.
And I'm not saying this is true. I'm just stating this, that there were a couple people talking about other items that they had found in those colonies where they had given the vaccine, such as lower this or lower that, and they weren't advertising it. They weren't really talking about it because they're still testing it. But just to prove the point is, there's still so much stuff that people are looking at and trying to figure out that vaccine that they're talking about could be the thing that kills. I think they said less small hive beetles. I don't want to talk out of place. It was something that wasn't advertised for the vaccine, and they said that they'd had weird results with it. in a good way, but they weren't
Mhm.
advertising it because, again, that's not what it was meant for. But
Yeah.
they were seeing other effects.
Yeah,
So
and this isn't gene altering stuff. It's not genetically modified bees. It's not genetically modified stuff. It's basically taking something that's already there, just making more of it available and cultivating it. Um, some people are like, well, that's unnatural. Well, putting bees in a beehive is unnatural too. So, how picky do you want to get? All right, let's get back
yeah,
to
let's
general bee questions.
yeah. Hey, we're at an hour and 40 minutes. Didn't know when you wanted to cut
All
off.
right, we're going to take some more questions real quick because I kind of ruined the last 10 minutes going on my little tangents there. But you know what? I have opinions too, like everybody else, and sometimes I just need to let them out. Thank you all for letting me do that with you tonight. Um, we're doing our best. We don't always get it right. Hog Farmer, really appreciate you guys. Keep making that bacon. Yeah. 21st bee, since organic acids have shown to destroy the gut lining that protects from nosema, and nosema is showing up in various bee samples now. Think people are over treating with too strong of dosages now? I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. But I don't know that for a fact. You know, we do know that whenever we treat with anything, typically it's stressful on the colony, various degrees of stressfulness. However, none of it is near as stressful as a high mite population. That's for sure, and getting injected with a lot of viruses. So this is where monitoring comes in handy. And some people don't want to, do an alcohol wash and kill 300 bees, so they risk the entire hive by not knowing what's going on. That's my personal opinion on it, and I built that off of losing more bees than probably anybody in this group by tenfold, and would prefer you guys not to repeat the same thing. So it's really about what's worse. Now, sure, if we go in and monitor and it's July or August or whenever, we definitely need to know what our mite loads are in July and August. And we go into 10 colonies and 7 of them are way below 1%. We're not going to put formic acid or thymol on them just in case. We're going to stress our bees out for nothing. And we're going to waste money on products too for nothing. But the 3 that do need to be treated, we're going to hit them for sure. Because if we don't and they start crashing for mites and they get robbed out in late September, well, guess what? There's billions upon billions of virus copies typically in these crashes. And all of your bees are getting a nice heavy dose of that right before going into winter. So a lot of times you can hurt yourself by just letting a couple colonies crash in your own yard, and it weakens your colonies going into winter. All right, another question. As one who wore a bee suit pre-Varroa, it's not the same ball game. We put in 5 times the elbow grease now. Hey, Wish I Could Spell, thanks for joining us again, and thanks for sharing that. I don't know what that's like. I didn't start beekeeping until around 2005, 2006. And it's just amazing how things have changed since then. But I can't imagine that. I've read so much literature and talked to so many beekeepers who have experienced that. And I talk to so many companies, large commercial bee companies, old manufacturers of equipment and stuff. It's just really mind blowing between all the reading that I do and stuff on how different the industry is now versus then. And Tropolay Labs has the potential to do that as well or greater. And that is why we at the Bee Expo and several of my buddies on YouTube, like Bob, are making sure that we do everything that we can with our ability to talk to people, influence if it's useful, to ensure that we are all going to be as prepared as possible. I want to already be prepared, and we got some guys in Europe already working on that. We're going to have some Tropolay stuff at the Bee Expo this year, and there are some products being talked about and hopefully in development soon that will be tested against Varroa Tropolay Labs, so we can hopefully get an idea on that. Meanwhile, we need to dial in Varroa as much as possible so that we can shift from that to the next stage. But hey, if people want to be successful, never let your bees run out of food. Never let the mites get out of hand. Keep good queens and always have a couple insurance colonies. and do that really well, and then complain to me about having too many bees.
Speaking of having too many combs, here's a question for Mike.
Is it a good idea to give a new nuke more frames of honey from a dead hive to help them produce faster in the supers? So I'm in small hive beetle territory, and I don't know where you're at, Mike, but especially if you're in the deep south where the small hive beetles just love to be, the last thing you want to do is to give them more than they can really cover well. Now, still, I don't think it's a super great practice to give, if it's like a 5-frame nuke that's even healthy, don't give them 5 frames of honey, but to give them a frame or two of resources, totally. Let them have it. And I see pictures online all the time. Facebook is just wonderful. Not. And people will post pictures. The other day, someone posted a picture about some bee bread that had a little bit of fungus on it. You know what? That happens. You leave your bread out too long, it's going to get a little bit of fungus on it too. But bees are really good at cleaning stuff. And, their favorite swarm traps is an old dead out colony in a tree somewhere that probably has a bunch of mildewy, moldy stuff in it as well, and wax moth residues and stuff. Bees are really good at cleaning up old stuff. Sometimes they can't, but the experts on Facebook will tell you, oh my goodness, there's a little bit of funky looking pollen. Burn those combs. It's like 1-year-old comb. Burn it. So, got to be careful on Facebook and stuff like that. And strong colonies can clean up a lot. Don't waste your combs. It's extremely valuable. Combs are just amazing. Right now, I don't know, 50 boxes still of deep comb. I'm using it. We're making nukes up and splits, and we're also trying to pull back some of the big honey production colonies when they're trying to swarm, and we're plugging in some frames of drawn comb. And so we just have that in our pocket at all times. Awesome. So, just don't give them too much, Mike. Give them what they can handle. 1 frame will go a long ways on a nuke, but definitely give them some. And, I don't worry too much about diseases. Really, if it's gone through a winter of sitting, I don't worry about it at all, unless it's American foul brood. That would be the only thing that would really give me pause. Or if it was just a recent dead out that collapsed from like bad cases of chalk brood, European foul brood, that kind of stuff. That's a different situation. There's pictures online. It's very easy to determine that if you give it a little bit of time on the internet. What's that company that there's a website, the Be Informed Partnership? No, the Honeybee Coalition. One of those, maybe it's both of them. They have some really good stuff online on how to identify that kind of thing. All right.
I got
one
good one for you.
We're gonna go 12. We're gonna go 12 more minutes. So feed
All
me,
right.
Chris. Feed me. What are your thoughts on 2 to 3 frame split nukes? I like something of that size this time of the year in Tennessee because I know I have a full season of build up ahead of me. What's my goal here? Are we want to sell these nukes? Are we hoping that they're going to be a certain size? There needs to be kind of an end goal for me. My robbing season starts the 2nd week to 3rd week in a great year in June. I don't want any wimps at that time of the year, especially if it's all in one yard where I'm going to have powerhouse colonies and little bitty splits. It's rough if it's robbing season, and you can kind of get away with doing it that time of the year a little bit better by having a secondary yard that has all similar sized colonies. But you can make a 2 to 3 frame split, but are we talking 2 frames of brood and a frame of food? That would work pretty good. 2 frames of really good brood, good bee coverage, a frame of food. That's really important. And especially if you're able to give them combs and the queen takes and boom goes. Oh, that, within 2 months, that's just going to be a powerhouse colony as long as you stay ahead of them. But I don't like to make splits like that close to a dearth period either. I don't like these little bitty splits. We saw this trend a while back. YouTubers were promoting it. Not me. And it was these 2 frame mating nukes, and they're just too small. So if you do a 2 to 3 frame split, and a 3 frame nuke is as small as I'd ever do, and I really don't like those anymore. They work. If you're doing a lot of queen mating, they work well. But if you're just wanting to do it for your own home yard, use something that's useful all year round. 5-frame nuke box, something, something that can be used for other things. Try not to have too many gadgets and gizmos. I have way too much gadgets and gizmos. So, Honeybee Health Coalition for Row Management Decision Tool. Thank you, Brian, very much. Or if it's Jen, I imagine it's Brian. Honeybee Health Coalition has some really good information. If you haven't gone and seen that, check it out. Why do you add sugar to your honey? I don't like the taste. I don't like the taste of natural honey. No sugar add. Well, where are you getting that idea from? Obviously, we feed our bees. Honey is not made year round. Not all colonies have honey. What if they swarm late and the honey flows over? Do you know how long honey flows last in my region? No. So if you catch a swarm late and they have no honey and there's no flowers blooming for them, you feed them or they die. So there's a lot of math here and there's a lot of beekeeping here. We don't feed when there is honey being produced. And you can buy some of my honey and test it and you'll find it's pure and it's good. American beekeepers been feeding sugar for over 100 years. Works great.
Question here from Scott.
Hey, Scott, how do you store your frames that are drawn out to keep wax moths, mice, and ants away from it? A lot of our stuff from last year got wrecked. Obviously, the freezer is the first choice, but you don't have all that much freezer space. So that doesn't work out too good for many of us. There are products out there that you can use. Some people don't want to use them. Paramoth has been used for generations and works just fine. You just have to air it out a little bit. There are some other products out there. Honestly, if I'm a new beekeeper, I would just use Paramoth. That comb is precious. Protect it, use the Paramoth. I usually would use enough to get me to wintertime. And once it's, November, we're getting so cold, there's no reason to reapply anymore. And at that point, we just want to make sure no mice or anything can get in there, excuse me. And then we'll just have that going. And I don't have problems with wax moss until here in Tennessee, until usually about May. And so that's kind of what I would recommend to any new beekeeper doing it. Paramoth kills anything that's in it and works just fine.
And obviously, once it gets cold enough, you won't have those problems, but that's not May for you.
That's right. Do you need a second queen when making a split, or will they make a queen? They can make their own, Natalie. It does take a lot of time, and the bees have to be really powerful to be able to wait that long to raise their own for her to go to emerge, go on a mating flight, hopefully come back. A lot of them do, but let's say it's the perfect queen and she goes and mates quickly and comes back. That's still going to take a lot of time. It's going to take 16 days from the time the egg is laid to the time that the queen emerges. Then the queen takes a few days to get walking around, flying out. Then she's got to come back, get everything situated plumbing wise, and then she starts laying. Then 21 days later is when her brood actually emerges and is useful to the colony. It can be 49 to 52 days on a walk-away split before you get new bees from that queen. So walk-away splits is what you're talking about when you make this split. And it takes a long time for that. And it's possible, but you want to do that in the premium time of the year during swarm season if you're going to do a walk-away split, in my opinion. Doing it late in the year is just not a good idea for that type of split. And honestly, if you're making these splits because of a swarm situation, use the swarm cells that the bees have already created. The bees make wonderful queens from swarm cells that are really well fed and strong. So you can use cells. I prefer never doing walk-away splits where they have to start from scratch. I want to have cells or I want to have a purchased queen. Can you do it? Yes. My personal experiences, walk-away splits waste a lot of time and energy and yield very poor return on queens. Can I put a brood frame of capped brood and nectar in the brood box? Can I put a brood frame? Yeah. The frame has been frozen. I was thinking extra food for this time of the year. So, no problem, hog farmer. I was just double checking if there was brood in there or not. Yeah, that would be just fine. Make sure you let it warm up a little bit so it's not actually really cold before you introduce it into the hive. But don't leave it out overnight too. Wax moths will find that really fast, and so will possums and other critters. Why can't you feed the bees just honey year round? If you saved enough back, you could, but honey actually degrades over time. And it's not just degradation towards humans, it's mostly towards bees. The older honey gets, the more that it darkens. If you buy a jar of honey and let it sit, and not all honeys are the same, some will crystallize, some won't, some will darken rapidly, and some will take years, but honey degrades over time. And it actually is less healthy for bees as it gets old than sugar is. The other thing is, bees do not want to eat honey. They want nectar and they want thin syrup. If you stick out um, honey into a frame feeder or sugar syrup, they'll take the sugar syrup faster. They want the thin stuff. And there's also some health benefits to feeding sugar syrup. Is it as good as nectar? Absolutely not. There's also many beekeepers in Europe, Northern Europe especially, and Canada, and they feed sugar on purpose, removing all the honey because their bees overwinter better on that than honey, because not all honeys are as ideal for bees as others. There are some pollens that are toxic to bees even and will kill brood because the pollens are just unhealthy for them. So it's a very interesting world that the bees live in, and not all locations experiences the same things. This is why there's a lot of misconceptions with bees. So, honey is also quite expensive. And when I'm going to have to dilute it down, it ferments fast. Old honey is not good for bees. And I'm definitely not going to feed honey from anybody else's bees that may have some type of disease. So, yeah, there's a lot of good reasons to feed sugar syrup. A lot of people like to blame bee health and problems around feeding bees artificial sugar. Man, this has been tested for over a century. It works phenomenally. Pollen is really where the nutrition comes from. There's some good stuff in nectar, don't get me wrong. Honey is a hardtack for bees. They want the nectar, they want the fresh stuff. Sugar is just energy. And if we're going to make bees, it's off of the proteins, the fats, the probiotics, all of the stuff that's in the pollens. You can keep bees completely healthy on feeding them sugar syrup year round. No nectar, no honey, as long as you have plenty of healthy pollens. If you feed them honey and you have no healthy pollens, the bees are going to die, even if you feed them pollen sub. So, that's the way things are. I don't know why. I didn't make the rules, but it works. Yeah, Scott, the paramoth works really good. Some people don't like it because they think it's not the most perfectly natural thing in the world. It's been approved for a long time and no one's had problems with it. So we just use it and let it air out a couple weeks before you use the combs and give them to your bees. All right, Chris. Hey, David's Bee Farm. My uncle has a barrel of dark honey. You just answered my question. Yeah, it darkens up like crazy. And an orange blossom is one of the ones that darkens up the fastest of the honeys that I've had. It's still delicious. It tastes good for us. Our gut is able to eliminate a lot of stuff the bees' guts aren't able to. And especially like when you're in a northernmost region, feeding honey can be really bad as things degrade, or especially if it's like a goldenrod honey, something that crystallizes really heavily or has a lot of mineral content. If your bees aren't getting a cleansing flight for like 2 to 3 months, that roughage builds up in their gut. It makes it very difficult to overwinter bees. And this is why, again, a lot of people take honeys from their bees in that region and just will feed like 100 pounds of sugar. And it is scientifically proven that the bees do better in those specific places, overwintering on sugar syrup. So that's one of the things where like we got to focus more on killing mites than on sugar and stuff like that. And the supplements that we have out there, lots of good ones out there. I think the most advantage most of them give to beekeepers is keeping the syrup from fermenting prematurely. There's a couple of them that actually have some the Apis biologics. I really like it. It actually does mimic the biocontrol, mimics nectar as close as we can humanly make it, I think, at this point. But still, sugar works great. And
I
as
got
be oh, you
one
got
final question
one
for you.
final question. Well, Chris, you're not getting your question answered tonight.
Okay, perfect.
Obi-Wan Jacoby. Very nice, very nice. My brother Ethan is like one of the biggest Obi-Wan Kenobi fans out there. I did splits going from double deeps to singles, and I replaced the split frames with foundation. Looks like the hives that had the queens are all trying to swarm right now. Do you know why? Yes, because you only could give them foundation, and also if they have it in their system, they want to swarm. A lot of times they'll try again, even if you split them. If you leave a lot of bees, but the problem with foundation, whether it is honey or anything like that. Hey, JKD, where are you overwintering your bees at? So, anyhow, looks like that. So when you give them foundation, it takes them time to draw that out. And if they don't commit to it immediately, then all of the resources that they need to store in that, whether that's pollen or whether that's nectar, that gets backfilled into what remaining comb you have left. Queen runs out of room to lay. There's less open brood. And so if the queen cuts back on her laying and there's less young brood, this shuts down. When the queen shuts down, there's less open brood. It stimulates their swarming behavior. And so the pheromone dynamics is really important in this, but foundation just is not useful to bees until there's comb on that. It is just not useful at all. So that's, again, where having extra comb is extremely helpful. But even with the comb, sometimes you'll still try to swarm a little bit.
Hey, Kathy wanted to share that with you.
Great Lakes, yeah, you're probably not going like 3 to 4 months without a brood break, excuse me, cleansing flight. And we let them have the goldenrod too, but our bees get cleansing flights. We're talking like Canada. We're talking like Norway. We're talking places where you're not going to get a cleansing flight for a long period of time. And hey, there's different varieties of goldenrod too. What I have here is not what they have in Wisconsin. But yeah, you can look it up. There's research on this. Sugar syrup works wonderfully and better than several types of honey. And it's not just goldenrod. It's also like stuff like canola. Thank you for clarifying the sugar syrup feed question. Some beekeepers would not accept any info I share on diluting before feeding honey, etc. I gave up. Sharing science makes a difference. Hey, there's a lot of people, you can't change their minds, and that's fine. I used to be the guy that said if you're doing anything but feeding the natural stuff, you're crazy. And I used to be the guy that didn't treat my bees. And I used to say that anyone who was treating was the problem. But I was a kid back then too. So I've been keeping bees 20 something years. I've talked to a lot of people. I don't know everything. But I mean, I have a lot of buddies in the science fields in beekeeping. I have guys that are running 15,000 hives, 4 or 5 generations. These guys know how to keep bees successfully. They know more about pollens and plants than probably some of these guys, more than this entire chat room together. They're successful. They're the ones that you buy bees from when you lose your bees. And so I typically listen to the people who are actually successful versus the ones who have opinions and we don't even know who they are. So, take that for what you will. This has been an opinionated night with Cayman Reynolds. Thanks for joining our chat, and hopefully you'll join again. I understand that what we say on here a lot of times is controversial and ticks some people off. That is partially what we like to do. We want people to think. We don't want to be your best buddy always that's just going to tell you what you want to hear. We want to challenge you to be the best beekeeper that you can be. And my best friends challenge me, correct me, and it's hard sometimes. Bob Benny, I've literally had him call me out on stage on something that said, Cayman, no, I actually think you're wrong on that. He was very nice about it. But you want to talk about having to swallow your pride. You don't argue with Bob Benny. And, Bob's asked me for some advice on some stuff that I know about the industry that he doesn't, so every day, learn more. I hope that you learned something tonight or had a little bit of fun. Thanks for watching this live stream, and we'll see you in the next one.